My coach stopped far below the castle. The moon had started to disappear behind one tower, and even in silhouette, the infamous fortress looked evil. The horses were jittery in their traces and whinnied their displeasure at the unscheduled stop. It wasn't until the nearby wolves howled that I remembered the tales the peasants had told me about Castle Dracula. It was on May the 3rd when I left Munich. My train went over one of the splendid Danube bridges that links the Western world to the East with all its Turco-Oriental mysteries. I stayed with the express until I was beyond Bistritz. I stopped at the Golden Krone Hotel, and there a letter from the Count awaited me. My friend Harker, welcome to the Carpathian Mountains. I anxiously await you. The coach will bring you to my castle. I trust your long journey from London has not tired you, and that you will enjoy staying in my beautiful Transylvania. Your friend, Dracula. The following day, before I boarded the coach, I found the innkeeper had learned of my destination, and he and his wife took me aside.
He is on his way to the castle Dracula, Hannah.
Then the man made the sign of the cross.
If you must go, young hare, wear this crucifix of silver, for it is the eve of St. George's Day, and...
3 others were in the coach with me. The passengers, hearing my destination, began to recite words that I was totally unfamiliar with. As quickly as I could, I flipped through my language dictionary and found the translations. The names meant devil, hell, witch, werewolf, and vampire. What nonsense. And yet, these people seemed serious enough. On May the 5th, our carriage stopped in the shadow of the castle. On the side road sat Dracula's coach. The driver, his face covered with a dust mask, addressed me from the darkness.
Herr Harker, I am to drive you up the mountain. My master awaits you there.
The driver of the coach, seeing that I was being met on the deserted road, drove off with whip flailing as if the devil were after him. As I climbed into the Count's carriage, I thought about the passengers' stories which often mention the undead, creatures dying but coming back to life. The carriage wound up a narrow road, closed in on either side by rocks and pines. All at once, I could pick out low, slinking forms gradually moving in close to us.
Driver, those wolves, have they ever been known to attack?
Making no answer, he drove on, until suddenly our coach was ringed in by wolves who leapt hungrily about us. The driver slid down from his perch, saying,
Fear nothing, Herr Englishman. The beasts dare not come closer now.
And with that, he built a pile of stones alongside the road, and remarkably, the wolves halted their attack. Certainly it couldn't be because of the rocks. They have no magic charm. But then, a blue flame erupted from the stones, and from where I sat... Oh, no. It must be my tired eyes. Or the long journey. But the driver looks transparent. To my great relief and puzzled surprise, the wolf pack scattered, their tails between their legs, as if...
See, Herr Harker, the beasts no longer molest us.
This time I was silent. The driver's mysterious words and actions. Surely the Count will satisfy my curiosity with some rational explanation. Upon close inspection from the courtyard, it seemed that the castle had not been taken care of for centuries. The driver's curt words brought me back from my bafflement.
Your luggage will be delivered inside, mein Herr. Knock at the front door.
Then he whipped his coach out of sight. Impudent lackey. But at least he responded to me. No one answered the front door. My pounding fist caused the unlatched door to swing open creakingly. Bats flitted out. I was too amazed to be frightened for the moment. What a strange and sinister dwelling. What manner of man is my host? I found my answer almost immediately. In the dim, somber glow of candlelight, I caught my breath as I first glimpsed the castle's master and heard his softly familiar voice. I am Count Dracula. Welcome to my home, Herr Harker. I trust you had a safe journey. The winter has been harsh, and the wolves can be unpleasant. Please come in. My castle is yours. Dinner is waiting for you. Follow me. And with that, he held his candle high enough for me to see the hallway as he led me to the dining room. If the elements had been harsh to the rock and the mortar on the outside of the castle, then the dampness and neglect had just as greatly mutilated the interior. Cobwebs, boasting families of spiders, draped every arch and gargoyle. In the dining room, I fell to hungrily. The food was good, but I noticed a strange thing. Count Dracula, you're not dining. I have already dined. After the meal, we went into the study, which was indeed another study in negligence. To business. I handed him the papers from Peter Hawkins, my London colleague. As he reached out and took them from me, I noticed his hands for the first time. How strange. Dracula has hairy palms. Scanning the papers quickly, he seemed quite pleased. 20-acre estate called Carfax. Secluded, high stone wall, outskirts of London. Excellent, Harker. Excellent. Just what I wanted. With that, he carefully put the papers away and turned the conversation to other things. Listen, Harker. The children of the night. Think of the wild, savage thrill of being a hunting creature. As he later led me upstairs, I couldn't help but think what a strange thing to say. He seemed anxious to get me settled for the night and hurried me along. But it is late. Your bedroom is this way. Sleep as late as you wish, Harker. Amuse yourself during the day tomorrow. I cannot see you until evening. Though I never was a man vain enough to keep a diary, I did feel that the extraordinary occurrences of my trip warranted at least a journal. So, for the first time in my life, I kept track of the day-by-day happenings. Harker's Journal, May the 8th. And so began my strange nocturnal life with Count Dracula. He shuns the daylight hours. We spend long nights together, completing the business arrangements for the purchasing of the Carfax estate. I suppose he's not a bad chap, really. Why does he seem to shun the daylight? Why does he never eat? Why are there no servants in this castle? And why are there no mirrors in the whole place? Fortunately, I brought my own shaving glass. May the 10th. This evening, while I was shaving, Dracula came into my room. Good evening, my English friend. Not having heard the Count enter my room, but hearing his voice behind me and feeling his hand on my shoulder, I looked up, expecting to see his reflection. Why is there no image of Dracula in my mirror? Abruptly, in blazing anger, Dracula tore my mirror from its hook and dashed it into thousands of silver splinters. A mirror! They aren't allowed in my castle. The intensity of his anger startled me until I saw that he had regained control of his temper. That is, until he saw a cut I had made shaving. You cut yourself, Harker. Blood on your throat. The
The pupils of his eyes dilated. He gripped me by the shoulder, his nails dug into my flesh. As I twisted away, my shirt pulled loose and revealed the silver crucifix the old peasant lady had given me. The Count clawed his temple in pain and reared back from the cross. "The cursed cross!" he gasped. I pulled the crucifix free from my shirt and held it before me, and Dracula retreated, finally darting out of the door of my room. No mirror image, craving of human blood, fearful of the crucifix. In my mind, I could picture the little old woman who had given me the silver cross. "Beware, young hare, of the vampire."
May the 11th. Before sunset, I explored the castle and found many of the doors locked, particularly all the doors leading to the front wing and out. I then began to survey the castle perimeter from the many leaded windows of the fortress. Climbing high in the castle, I opened the last window I could reach, and, looking out, thought, here, at the back of the castle, 1,000-foot precipice. No escape this way. Now I know the truth. I am Dracula's prisoner. The next evening, hiding my fears, I queried Count Dracula about his ancestry out of morbid curiosity. He seemed delighted with my fraudulent interest and expounded at length on his heritage. My people built an empire lasting many centuries. The Turks battered at our borders. How well I remember those fierce battles. The blood of many Dracula kinsmen spilling into the soil.
Good Lord, he speaks as if he were there in person.
It was then that I looked carefully at the portrait he continually referred to. The painted eyes first attracted my interest. Can this be his own portrait? What manner of man can still be alive today, 600 years later? But his departing words chilled me even more. Much Dracula blood was lost to the invaders, precious blood, a debt not yet collected in full by the only Dracula surviving today. Good night, Herr Harker, and pleasant dreams. Later, too restless for sleep, I gazed down into the courtyard near my bedchamber when suddenly I saw what had to be a crawling figure. It's Dracula leaving his quarters. He's going down that vertical wall like a huge lizard. I realized my opportunity. With him away, now is my chance to use this poker to pry open the door leading to his wing of the castle. Perhaps there is a way to the outside world in there. I went through many doors, but I came finally to an immovable barrier. Trapped. In my prison of nameless horrors, I wandered back through many ancient, undisturbed rooms. I've lost my way. I'm weary. Let me rest. Dozing, I awoke with a start to find 3 women standing over me. The room smelled sharply of mold, and a pale green mist whirlpooled into the corners of the room. The fairest of the 3 spoke. Ah, he is young and strong. We will take turns. She came toward me, long blonde hair falling over her bare shoulders, which were more ashen-colored than white. Is she going to kiss me? She bent down and cradled my head in her hands. Her lips parted, and I noticed her teeth. Her canine teeth were long and pointed. Why is she moving down toward my neck? Ah! Oh. Her fangs raked across my throat, leaving a chain of tiny wounds. Then, quite suddenly, she was torn away. The horrible deed was interrupted by the return of Dracula.
Back, wench! How dare you touch him? He is mine, you know. Mine.
At that time I could only guess what terrifying thing he meant. The three hideous females faded ghost-like into the night. Then Dracula commanded me from his room. As for you, English fool, do not again invade my quarters, or you will meet your own madness. May the 19th. Bewildering, hopeless days passed. Then one evening, I saw Dracula's cunning plan. He sat me at a desk, and he made me take pen in hand. Write to Peter Hawkins in London 3 letters, dated a week apart. First, that you are leaving Castle Dracula. Second, you are on the train to Budapest. Third, you are booking passage on a French ship to England. I suppose I looked up startled, for then he said, "But of course, my dear Harker, you will be my guest another month or more." May 28th. Today, I tried a desperate measure when a band of gypsies paused for the day in the courtyard with the Count's permission. From my window, I caught their attention. "Deliver this note to the authorities, and the gold sovereign is yours." I threw down a note which one of them picked up. He examined the gold piece. "Do not fail. It is life and death for me." But that evening, to my utter dismay, I watched the Count burn my letter to the authorities. Ascani turned over this note to me, Harker. It is a vile thing. An outrage upon friendship and hospitality. It is not signed. So it cannot matter to us. And he calmly held letter and envelope in the flame of the lamp until they were consumed. Then he went on. "If you wish to leave, Harker, why not go?" I couldn't say anything for a moment, and then I said, "You're mocking me." To my complete surprise, he led me to the front portal of the castle and opened it for me. "This proves I mean it. Freedom is yours." I felt ashamed. "Forgive me, Count Dracula. I must have imagined things about you. Goodbye." As I turned to go down the stairs, my eyes caught movement at the bottom. "Wolves! Shut the door! Shut the door!" "I'll wait until the morning." Has something changed your mind? Then come back in, my dear guest. With that, the door swung closed and was locked once more. June the 17th. Time passes drearily. Dracula does not molest me, seeming busy with other important projects, for which he calls in peasant wagons. The men have immediately got to work with shovels. Why are the Slovak wagon men hauling away pine boxes filled with fresh earth? Dracula oversees the whole proceedings. 50 boxes I want. Hurry. June the 20th. Tonight, I again saw the 3 ghost women materialize in the moonlit courtyard. There, Dracula tossed them something too revolting to relate. This time, the women were weak and emaciated from hunger. "We starve, master." Dracula handed them a sack. Feast well. With a beating heart, I tried the door, but I was locked in my prison. I could do nothing. Over and over the thought kept occurring to me. Did a child's whimpering come from that sack? Shortly, a pitiful, ragged figure was banging at the front door. "Monster!
monster, give me back my child! My child!
And I saw Dracula in his window, gesturing silently out over the fields, and then he spoke in a harsh, metallic whisper that I couldn't quite hear. And he was answered by the wolves. There was no cry from the woman, and the howling of the wolves was but short. Before long, they streamed away, licking their lips. I know what became of her child. She is better dead. June the 25th. Today, through a combination of bravado and desperation, a daring plan came to me. If Dracula can crawl across the castle walls, why not I? In the daylight. The stones are rough enough to cling to. Inch by inch, I must reach the Count's window. Falling into the chamber, I discovered it was a bare room. Empty, except for old sacks, holding, could it be? Yes, gold coins. Of Turkey, Romania, Hungary, and from ancient days, proving Dracula did exist 6 centuries ago. But my greatest find was a door leading out to the open air, yet not to freedom, for it was a grotto enclosed by walls. Can that be a chapel ahead? Quickly, I moved to it, and following tracks in the dust, I found a passageway leading to the burial chambers under the small church. Inside one of the vaults, I discovered 50 coffins. Again, I recalled the warnings I had received. The tales of the peasants. This will prove once and for all if I am in truth in the hands of... In the dim light, I could see one coffin was more elaborate than the other plain pine boxes. I removed the lid. There lay the Count, but looking as if his youth had been half renewed, for the white hair and moustache were changed to dark iron grey. The cheeks were fuller, and the white skin seemed ruby red underneath. The mouth was redder than ever, for on the lips were gouts of fresh blood, which trickled from the corners of the mouth and ran over the chin and the neck. Even the deep, burning eyes seemed set amongst swollen flesh, for the lids and the pouches underneath were bloated. It seemed as if the whole awful creature were simply gorged with blood. He lay like a filthy leech, exhausted with his repletion. I shuddered as I bent over to touch him, and every sense in me revolted at the contact, but I had to search, or I was lost. The coming night might see my own body a banquet in a similar way to those horrid 3. I felt all over the body, but no sign could I find of a key. Then I stopped, and I looked at the Count. There was a mocking smile on the bloated face, which seemed to drive me mad. This was the being I was hoping to transfer to London, where perhaps for centuries to come he might, amongst its teeming millions, satiate his lust for blood and create a new and ever-widening circle of semi-demons to batten upon the helpless. The thought drove me mad. A terrible desire came upon me to rid the world of such a monster. There was no lethal weapon at hand, but I seized a shovel which the workmen had been using to fill the cases, and lifting it high, struck with the edge downward at the hateful face. But as I did so, the head turned, and the eyes fell full upon me with all their blaze of basilisk horror. The sight seemed to paralyze me, and the shovel turned in my hand and glanced from the face, nearly making a deep gash above the forehead. The shovel fell from my hand across the box, and as I pulled it away, the flange of the blade caught the edge of the lid, which fell over again, and hid the horrid thing from my sight. The last glimpse I had was of the bloated face, blood-stained, and fixed with a grin of malice which would have held its own in the nethermost hell. Somehow, in a mad frenzy, I scaled the chapel yard's walls, and I lurched away from Castle Dracula.
Free! 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 I am outwitted, Dracula!
I remember nothing more until I awoke in a Budapest sanatorium. The shock of my experience caused me to rave incessantly for the first few days, and the hospital staff considered me quite mad. "Quiet now," said my nurse. "Try to sleep." And sleep I did for many days. Soon I was much better. But as I found out later, another madman in a London sanatorium perplexed Dr. John Seward on his rounds. Renfield, why do you capture and eat flies? Common, ordinary, useless flies.
Oh, no, not useless, Doctor. Oh, no. Each is a life, you know. A small life, true, but if I consume many of them and their life force passes into me, I will live forever. Yes, for eternity. Then the madman Renfield, his mind often prophesying, spoke of a ship that the doctor knew nothing about. The ship, Demeter, is taking 50 boxes of earth aboard. The crew is doomed. The doomed.
July the 6th. The Demeter finished loading its cargo at a Black Sea port. 48, 49, 50 boxes of earth. Why in the world should anybody ship cheap dirt from Transylvania to England? Strange. More than strange were the events to follow on the crossing of the Mediterranean.
Mine missing, sir. Petrovsky. Just vanished last night. No one heard him go over.
July the 17th. The captain's log recorded that the crew acted frightened. And one night in a gale, a man making his rounds heard the forward watch say,
That tall, thin figure with the gleaming red eyes, who in heaven's name is it?
July the 24th. The Demeter passed Gibraltar, and a second man was found missing. The captain ordered the ship search from fore to aft. No stowaway, sir. No stowaway aboard. Yet somebody or something is doing away with my men. From then on, the ship's log recorded in brief phrases the nightly disappearances of the crew. One by one, the hands met silent extinction aboard the ship of horror, until the captain prowled the decks one morning to find I'm alone. The only one left aboard. Storm brewing and no hands to take in sail. Must lash myself to the heel. Got to get through the Dover Straits. August the 3rd. Miraculously, the schooner survived the lashing storm. As if by some magical power, the unmanned derelict sailed to the English shore and grounded herself, and was found by a Coast Guard cutter after dark.
Ahoy! Ahoy there! Why don't you answer?
The cutter moved incautiously toward the beached Demeter. In the searchlight's glare, a huge, hairy form leapt into the surf.
Look, sir! That huge dog has run under the beach. More like a wolf, I'd say, sir.
They found the captain still aboard, but
dead. Odd, those 2 marks on his throat, like tiny punctures. Aye, and he's the only soul aboard, sir.
Eight days later, on August the 11th, those same words were echoed by Dr. John Seward, examining a Miss Lucy Westenra of London. Odd, these 2 punctures. Did Lucy suffer some kind of accident, Miss Murray, while she was with you? Mina Murray was my fiancée. She had come to spend a week with her good friend Lucy, helping her to get ready for her coming marriage to Arthur Homewood. She was a trifle flustered at the doctor's remark, and showed him Lucy's brooch, which had a long, sharp pin. How clumsy of me, Dr. Seward. I must have accidentally jabbed her. You see, continued Mina, when I found Lucy sleepwalking last night, I must have jabbed her accidentally. Don't you worry, my dear, the doctor reassured her. Just feed Lucy rich foods and her touch of anemia will go away. Lucy, her skin as pale and translucent as onion skin paper, looked up slowly and responded for the first time. Anemia? Thin blood? Is that why I feel so feeble? The next night, Lucy woke again in her sleep. Mina found her in the garden. Under the full moon, tiptoeing along the walk, my fiancé was startled to see a tall, shadowy form with a cape that reminded her of folded back wings, bending over Lucy as if kissing her. The figure melted away into the shadows as its senses warned of her approach. Mina ran forward and tried to help the further weakened and horrified Lucy to her feet. Mina's thoughts ran a jumbled course. She's unconscious, and her breathing is forced. What could have happened? I was still in the Budapest sanatorium, recovering after my escape from Castle Dracula. My disappearance concerned Mina and caused her to relate her anxieties to Lucy. Oh, I wish my Jonathan were here to help us. Why hasn't he written to me? He should be back from his business trip by now. I'm worried about him, Lucy. While Lucy slept on her bed, Mina restlessly dozed on a nearby couch. A flapping sound instantly brought her from her light sleep. What's that noise? It's at the French windows. Some big bird is trying to batter its way in. But forcing her eyes to look toward the annoying sound, she covered her mouth with her hand, for what she saw was a giant black bat. But it can't break through the heavy glass. And then, as it disappeared, her thoughts turned to her friend. Thank heaven it didn't wake poor Lucy. The next night, at Dr. Seward's sanatorium, Renfield, the fly-eater, leapt through a glass window.
Renfield escaped!
And Renfield, hearkening to a call transmitted many miles from London, wailed in the darkness, I hear, Master! I'm coming, Master! Following commandment only his ears could hear, Renfield intercepted his master near King's Cross, where the ill-fated Demeter's cargo was being duly delivered. Renfield knelt at the crossroads as 3 wagons passed, loaded with the 50 coffins of dirt. They turned at a signpost reading Carfax. Yes, Master, I understand. I will not follow, but I will go back quietly until my time. The wagons arrived at Carfax, which Dracula had purchased through me. The old mansion would suit the Count ideally. The drayman carried the heavy coffins into the chapel, complaining, as all of us are apt to do. Oh, we've got to put them all in the old church. Hoist away. Oh, it's plenty heavy. Oh, well, none of our business why the new owner imported dirt. 2 days later, my fiancée received news about me. The note read as follows. Dear Miss Wilhelmina Murray, Mr. Jonathan Harker has been our patient for 6 weeks. He has been the victim of a violent brain fever and is at present unable to write to you himself. But he is improving rapidly and expresses the wish to see you soon. Sincerely yours, Sister Agatha, Blessed Sacrament Hospital, Budapest, Hungary. Forgetting Lucy for the time, Mina worried about me. Oh, my poor dear. I'll take the next train and the fastest ship. On the Orient Express, Mina looked over the hospital report the sister had included in the letter. Her anxiety for me was augmented by the fact that the hospital report said that I raved about demons, wolves, vampires, and blood. My poor darling. And with traditional English fortitude declared to herself, I'll nurse him back to health as his wife. She rushed into my hospital room in Budapest on August the 24th. At that time, I was suffering from the common convalescent malady of self-pity. Oh, but Mina, my mind, I may never be fully cured. Your husband would be but a wreck of a man. But Mina was determined. Nonsense, my dear. Here comes the English minister. I arranged for our wedding here and now. Dear Mina proved worthy of her own esteem, and even put up with my occasional prophecies of doom. My dear wife, oh, my dear, dear one, will misery be yours instead of happiness?
My dearest, I want you to take this journal of mine and seal it so that you will never know what I have seen. It's all so vague, even in my own mind.
On the next to the last day in August, another marriage was arranged, that of Mina's friend, Lucy. Miss Westenra, having finished an encouraging examination, rhapsodized. Arthur and I have set the date for September the 28th. Oh, I will be well enough, won't I, Dr. Seward? And Seward, unable to shatter her optimism, answered, I trust so, my child. I trust so. But Dr. Seward was worried enough over Lucy's condition to write to a blood specialist in Holland. Sitting in his study, he composed a letter. I'll ask Van Helsing to take the next boat across. Perhaps he can diagnose Miss Westenra's persistent anemia. The enticing letter relayed the facts to the prominent physician, and Seward was at the pier when his colleague, Professor Abraham Van Helsing, arrived. Van Helsing, his eyes betraying his excitement at the new challenge, bid them hurry.
Most interesting, Mynheer Seward. Let us at once your patient go see. Oh, and excuse me, you see, my English still not too fluent is.
After the examination, Van Helsing pulled Seward aside. The Dutchman was annoyingly vague.
Lucy has lost much blood, yes, but it is not anemia. At least, not in the way medical science catalogues it. Lucy has lost blood in another way.
On September the 4th, Van Helsing went back to his Holland office to consult books not found in scientific libraries. Some of the obscure books were titled Demonology, Witchcraft, Superstitious Myths, Lycanthropy, Vampire Legends. Van Helsing knew that only among these lay Lucy's salvation, if he was in time. He returned to London on September the 7th and re-examined Lucy, who was now failing at an alarming rate. Lucy repeated her terror.
Yes, Dr. Van Helsing, this nightmare of being visited by someone, a tall man in black, occurs almost nightly.
What? Said Van Helsing.
Call her fiancé Arthur. No time there is to lose. No time.
Van Helsing knew that only blood could hope to save Lucy's life.
Lucy sleeps, but her condition is critical. You must guard her each night, Dr. Seward. You must make sure that no one and nothing disturbs her. I myself must procure a certain herb.
But weary from the vigil, Dr. Seward fell sound asleep his second night of standing watch over Lucy, while he slept on the sofa. Lucy arose like a sleepwalker and opened the French windows. She let in the black bat with the hypnotic eyes. In the morning, when Van Helsing arrived, he found Lucy sprawled on the carpet. Dr. Seward stammered,
But what happened while I slept?
Van Helsing recognized the symptoms at once.
The worst! 2 red marks on her throat. She has lost more blood, which must be replaced now.
Feeling guilty for his lack of vigilance, Dr. Seward insisted on being the blood donor that time. As the blood flowed from Seward's arm to Lucy's, colour returned to her death-white face, and Van Helsing assured him,
She will revive, Seward. She will revive.
Before leaving, Van Helsing distributed the herb he had brought. He placed the garlic flower on the windowsills, while Seward watched puzzled.
My dear fellow, a herb should be administered to the patient, not scattered around her room. Yeah, in ordinary medical cases you are right, but...
Lucy's mother came to visit her sick daughter, relieving the 2 doctors of the burden. She thoughtfully reassured them, Gentlemen, you have other duties. I will watch over my poor girl day and night. But as it chanced, when Mrs. Westenra noticed the strong odour of the plants all around Lucy's room, and the garland around her daughter's neck, her sense of upper-class dignity was offended.
Garlic house, trifling. Perhaps the doctors wanted to disinfect the air, but too much of the heavy odour will be bad for Lucy.
At the next visit, Van Helsing found Lucy once again looking worse. Mrs. Westenra saw him staring at the open doors and the missing garlands.
Yes, I threw those horrid plants out, and I left the French windows open all night to let in some fresh air. You let in more than fresh air, madam. Seward, it is now my turn. Hurry.
This time Van Helsing was the donor.
Take more blood from me, Seward. More. Otherwise, Lucy will never come out of her coma.
From then on, Van Helsing took no chances and guarded Lucy for 4 nights himself. The room was once more festooned with fresh wolfsbane. On the 4th night, Van Helsing was rewarded by seeing the big black bat swoop angrily away from a sprig of the wolfsbane that hung at the French doors.
Not tonight, my lustful friend. Wolfsbane fumes drive you back, huh? Away, you foul thing, away!
But not everywhere were things going so well. At the sanatorium, Dr. Seward was attacked by his mad patient. Renfield leapt out of the shadows of Seward's office, wielding a knife. As Seward threw up his arm in reflexive defense, the blade gashed his wrist, and blood rhythmically gushed out of the big artery that had been severed.
My wrist! Guards!
The attendants rushed in to find a shocking sight. Renfield was kneeling on the floor, lapping up the pool of blood that had come from the doctor's wrist. Disregarding his own danger, Seward directed the capture of Renfield.
Quick! The straitjacket! Watch out! He's a wild primitive, a wild animal!
Cried Renfield, his face and hands bathed in crimson.
Blood is the life! It is mine, rich friend!
With maniacal strength, Renfield fought off the attendants and escaped, again as if following a command.
I come, master, I come!
Nearing Carfax Abbey, where Draymond had been called to cart away some of the 50 pine boxes filled with the black dirt, Renfield knelt as the boxes went past and wept.
Yes, master. Yes, I will go back. It is too soon to join you. I obey.
That same night, Van Helsing received a telegram at Lucy's home. Another important consultation.
I warn you, Mrs. Westenra, do not remove this wolf's bane, or you will jeopardize your own life as well as that of your daughters.
3 hours after Van Helsing had left, a gaunt, grey form leapt from the night and smashed its head through the French windows. Its attack was brought up short when its nose plunged through one of the garlands. Lucy sat up in bed terrified. Her mother collapsed off.
Heaven help us. A wolf. Oh. Mother, it's all right. The wolf's bane stopped it. The wolf's bane.
But the wolf's visit had done more than simply break a pane of glass.
Mother. Poor heart. She's dead.
In the morning, Seward and Van Helsing came upon what at first seemed a double death. Lucy lay sprawled near her mother on the floor. Van Helsing, taking Lucy's wrist, announced,
A faint pulse. A very faint one. Lucy is alive, but only an immediate transfusion can save her. Where can we find a donor? This time, this quickly.
As if in answer, the door opened and Quincy Morris stepped in. Morris, a chap of cheerful fatalism, spoke with his normal, unaffected abandon. Why, hello there. I'm Quincy Morris, wartime friend of Arthur Homewood, and, I say, what goes on here? Van Helsing was equally as blunt.
Young man, roll up your sleeve if you wish to save your friend's fiancée.
Quincy talked through the entire transfusion, and even when it was over, his chatter continued. 4 times in 10 days, you say? New blood poured into Lucy's veins? Well, what took the blood out? Van Helsing clapped his hands joyfully.
Ha! A sharp young man who to the point comes. It is not anemia or any physical ailment, but it's a person. One who... But no. I cannot yet shock you with the real truth. Not until we see if there is any change in Lucy's condition.
On September the 20th, a sudden, dramatic, and unbelievable change in Lucy occurred. First, her teeth grew sharper and longer, and overlapped her lower lip. Second, her lips took on a more snarling shape, and finally, her eyes squinted with an evil cast. Van Helsing pointed out the changes and noted that the 2 throat wounds were gone, healed, and for the first time, Van Helsing recognized his defeat. Sadly, he told them,
She is dying the wrong way.